I thought my wife was criticizing me until I realized she was helping me heal. And that moment taught me something very powerful about love. Sometimes the right person doesn't just love you, they help you grow.
Who am I when the lights go low? Who am I when the world says no? Searching through my past, trying to free my...
Think about the last time you were deeply in love. The excitement, the connection, the way that person made you feel seen, made you feel loved, and even valued. See, there is something powerful about being loved, but there is something even more powerful that most people miss. Here it is. Love doesn't just show you who someone else is. Love shows you who you are. Because when you love someone, your patience gets tested, your ego gets challenged, your insecurities surface, your maturity gets stretched, and suddenly you're not just learning about them, you're learning about yourself. Which means love isn't just emotional, love is identity revealing. And today we're asking a question most people never stop to ask. Who am I in love? So who are you when you love someone? Not when someone is loving you, not when someone is affirming you, not when someone is praising you, but when you're the one doing the loving. Because here's something most people will never talk about. Love doesn't just reveal how you feel. Love reveals who you are. Think about it. See, some people become patient in love. Some people become protective in love. And some people become generous in love. But others become controlling, they become insecure, and they become distant. And here's the uncomfortable truth most people avoid. Love doesn't just bring out the best in us. Sometimes love exposes the worst in us too. Because love is not just emotion. Love is identity pressure. It presses on your character. It presses on your patience. It presses on your ego. And suddenly, the question becomes unavoidable. Not, do I love them, but who do I become when I love someone? Because if love is real, it will eventually show you something about yourself, something beautiful or something broken. And that leads us to today's question. Do you know who you are when you give love or only when you receive it? Now, here's something that might surprise you. Most people think relationships are about finding the right person, but I've learned something different. Relationships are not primarily about finding someone, they are about discovering yourself. Because love will introduce you to parts of yourself you didn't even know were there. Your patience, your selfishness, your tenderness, your insecurities, and yes, even your fears, and also your capacity to sacrifice. Love will pull things out of you that comfort never will. And if we're honest, if we're really honest, some of those things are beautiful, but some of those things also need work. So before we go any further, I want you to imagine something. Picture a mirror, just a regular mirror, the kind you walk past every morning to look at your hair, to fix your makeup, to make sure your outfit is looking nice. But instead of reflecting your face, it reflects your relationship, your marriage, your friendship, your family, the people you love. And instead of showing your appearance, it shows your behavior, how you speak. It reflects how you react, how you show patience, how you show anger, and yes, even how you show grace. Now, here's the question. If love is the mirror, what is it showing you about yourself? But before we dive deeper into today's conversation, let's do something we always do here on the Who Am I podcast. We pause, we reflect. Not because the conversation isn't important, but because you are. See, this podcast was never about ideas. It was about people. And yes, that includes you. So before we talk about love, let me check on you for a moment. How are you doing today? And you already know I'm not looking for the automatic answer that you give to people at work or in passing. Not the answer that you give when someone says, "Hey, how are you?" And you automatically say, "I'm good." I mean, really, how are you doing? How has life been treating you lately? How has your heart been feeling lately? Have you been carrying peace, or have you been carrying pressure? Did you take any time this weekend to slow down, to breathe, to reflect? Or were you moving so fast, trying to meet deadlines, trying to meet expectations, trying to show up for everyone else, that you forgot to check in with yourself? Because one of the easiest things to neglect in life is your own emotional well-being, especially when you're busy loving other people, showing up for other people, sacrificing for other people. See, sometimes the strongest people in the room are the ones quietly holding the most weight. And if that's you, if you've been carrying a lot, if life has been heavy, if your heart has been tired, I want you to hear something clearly. You matter. Your voice matters. Your mind matters. Your presence matters. And yes, your life matters. And if no one has told you that lately, let me be the one to say it today. I am truly glad you're here. I really am. Because every time we gather in this space, we're not just listening to another podcast. We're building something together. We're building a community of people who are willing to reflect, willing to grow, and willing to ask the hard questions. And today's question is a powerful one, because today we're talking about love. Today's episode is called Who Am I in Love? Because love has a way of revealing things about us, some beautiful, some uncomfortable, but all important. And today we're going to explore something most people never stop to think about. Not just who do I love, but who do I become when I love someone? So I'll be honest with you. Being married taught me something I didn't fully understand before, that love isn't just about feelings, love is about transformation. Because when you commit your life to someone, you don't just gain a partner, you gain a mirror. And that mirror will show you things about yourself, some things you're proud of, some things you didn't realize needed work. See, marriage taught me patience, real patience, like for real. Not the kind where you say you're patient, but the kind where you actually have to practice it daily, sometimes hourly, like for real. Because when you love someone deeply, you learn something powerful, that love isn't always convenient, love isn't always easy, love isn't always comfortable, but love is always revealing, love is always reflective. See, love reveals your maturity. It reveals your communication. It reveals your ability to sacrifice. And sometimes it reveals the places in your character that is flawed and that still needs growth. So, love as a mirror. Let me break down that statement. See, here's something powerful. Love is one of the greatest mirrors we will ever experience in life. Because when you're alone, you can't convince yourself you're patient. You can't convince yourself you're easygoing. You can convince yourself you're understanding. But relationships will test those assumptions. See, relationships will ask questions like, how do you respond when you're misunderstood? How do you respond when you're frustrated? How do you respond when things don't always go your way? Wow. And suddenly, love become less about romance and more about your character. Think about it. Now, let me ask you something honestly, not quickly, not casually, but honestly. When you're giving love, who do you become? Because most people know who they are when they are being loved, when someone is affirming them, when someone is encouraging them, when someone is showing them kindness. See, it's easy to feel good about yourself when love is flowing towards you. But the deeper question is this: who are you when love is flowing out of you? When patience is required, when sacrifice is required, when understanding is required, and when the moment calls for grace instead of ego. Sit with that for a second. See, when someone misunderstands you, when someone disappoints you, when emotions are high and pride wants to take control, who shows up in those moments? Do you become patient? The kind of patient that take a breath before reacting, where you pause before you push, or the kind of patience that listen before responding, the kind of patience that understand that people are human and growth takes time? Or do you become protective, not defensive, but protective in the healthy sense? Protective of the relationship, protective of peace, protective of the bond you're building with someone? Or do you become selfless, willing to step outside of your own comfort, willing to consider someone else's feelings, willing to say, let me understand your heart before I defend my position? Or does something else show up? Do you become defensive, guarded, quick to assume the worst, quick to protect your ego instead of protecting the relationship? Or do you find yourself shutting down instead of opening up? Do you build walls instead of bridges? Now, listen carefully. This isn't about judging yourself. It really isn't. This isn't about criticizing yourself. This isn't about seeing yourself clearly, because awareness is one of the greatest gifts we can give ourselves. See, awareness allows us to recognize patterns. Awareness allows us to see where we are going. And awareness allows us to see where we still need growth. Can I say that again? Because awareness is one of the greatest gifts we can give ourselves. Awareness allows us to recognize patterns. Awareness allows us to see where we are growing. And awareness allows us to see where we still need growth. Because the truth is, love has a way of revealing things about us, things we're proud of, and things we didn't realize were even there. But if we're willing to look honestly, those revelations can become the beginning of transformation. So here's something that I truly believe. Love doesn't just connect people. Love shapes identity. Because when you love someone deeply, you cannot remain the exact same person you were before. Because love demands something from you. Love calls something out of you. And love invites you to grow in ways comfort never will. See, love requires sacrifice, not the dramatic kind you see in movies, but the quiet sacrifice, the everyday sacrifices, the moments where you choose patience over irritation, the moment where you choose understanding over assumptions, the moment where you choose unity over being right. See, love requires something amazing. Love requires humility. And humility is not always easy, because humility asks us to admit when we are wrong. Humility asks us to listen even when our pride wants to speak first. Humility asks us to acknowledge that growth is still happening inside of us. But love also does this. Love also requires grace. Grace for the other person. And sometimes grace for yourself. Because relationships are two imperfect people learning how to grow together, learning how to become one, learning how to communicate effectively, learning how to navigate each other's differences, learning how to show compassion when emotions run high. And all of those things, sacrifice, humility, grace, they shape who we are becoming. That's why you cannot stay the same person and love someone deeply at the same time, because love will always stretch you. Love will always challenge your habits. Love will confront your insecurities. Love will expose your fears. And if you allow it, it will refine you. It will smooth the rough edges of your character. It will teach you emotional maturity. It will strengthen your ability to care for another human being. See, love, when embraced fully, does something very powerful. It transforms us. See, some of the most powerful growth in our lives doesn't happen in isolation. It happens inside relationships because relationships teaches us things success never will. You can achieve success on your own. You can build accomplishments on your own, but relationships require cooperation. They require empathy. They require emotional awareness because relationships teaches us patience, real patience, the kind that understand that people are learning just like we are, the kind that understands that everyone is carrying experiences that shape how they respond to life. See, relationship teaches us forgiveness, not the easy kind, but the meaningful kind, the kind that releases resentment, the kind that chooses healing instead of holding on to hurt. Relationships teaches us accountability because when we truly care about someone, we begin to recognize how our actions affects them, our words, our tones, our reactions. And that awareness can be uncomfortable, but it can also be incredibly powerful because accountability opens the door for growth. Relationship also teaches empathy, the ability to pause long enough to ask, what might this person be feeling right now? What might they be going through? What might their heart be trying to communicate? And if we are willing to learn from these lessons, relationships can shape us into better people. Not perfect people, but wiser people, kinder people, more compassionate people. People who understand that love is not just something we feel. Love is something we practice. We practice it every day in small moments, in difficult conversations, in quiet sacrifices, in patient understanding. And when we allow love to teach us, something interesting begins to happen. We start to see ourselves more clearly because love doesn't just reveal who someone else is, love reveals who we are. Love reveals our strength, it reveals our blind spots, it reveals our habits, it reveals our growth. And if we're honest, some of the most important lessons about ourselves come through the people we love the most. See, I know that has certainly been true for me because love, especially in marriage, has shown me things about myself I didn't always recognize at first. Some things I was proud of, and some things that requires reflection. And that brings me to something personal I want to share with you today. A lesson that love taught me about myself, one that didn't happen overnight. And matter of fact, I'm still growing, but changed the way I understand what love really means. Let me tell you a story about what love showed me about myself. See, there's something I had to learn in my own marriage that I didn't realize I was carrying for a long time. And if I'm being honest with you, it didn't show up until my wife started holding up a mirror to me. Now, let me explain what I mean by that. Because for a long time, whenever my wife would try to tell me something about myself, I would get defensive. Not loud, not angry, but defensive. In that quiet way where your guard goes up, where you stop listening, where you start preparing your response instead of hearing the heart behind what's being said. And the truth is, that reaction didn't start with my wife. It started long before her. It came from past relationships, from seasons in my life where the safest thing I felt I could do was stay quiet. Where instead of expressing myself, where instead of opening my heart, I learned to protect it. I guarded my heart. So when my wife would bring something to me, even if she was saying it gently, even if she was saying it with love, something inside of me interpreted it as an attack. And I find myself thinking, why are you coming at me like this? Why are you pointing this out? But the truth is, she wasn't attacking me at all. She was trying to help me see something. And the part that took me time to understand is this: she wasn't speaking to harm me, she was speaking to heal me. And that's something I've had to reflect on deeply and still does. Because if we're honest, God has placed something extraordinary inside of women. There's a nurturing component in them that's hard to fully explain. It's the ability to love even when the person they're loving isn't always at their best. It's the ability to see something in you even when you don't fully see it in yourself. And sometimes that love shows up in ways that challenge you, not to break you, but to build you, not to shame you, but to grow you. And I started realizing something about myself. The problem wasn't what my wife was saying. The problem was the filter in which I was hearing it through. I was hearing her words through past wounds, through past disappointments, through old defenses that had nothing to do with her. And once I began to recognize that, something started to shift inside of me. Instead of hearing criticisms, I started hearing care. Instead of hearing judgment, I started hearing love. Because real love doesn't just celebrate the best parts of you. Real love is also willing to help you confront the parts of you that still needs growth. And the more I reflected on that, the more I realized something powerful. True love isn't something that constantly drains you. True love deposits something inside of you. It deposits patience, it deposits understanding, it deposits growth, and sometimes it deposits truth, even when that truth is uncomfortable to hear. And as I'm sitting here talking to you about this, I'm reflecting on it in real time. Because love has a way of doing that. It keeps teaching you. It keeps revealing things about yourself. It keeps reminding you that growth doesn't stop once you say, I do. Sometimes that's when it really begins. And that realization led me to ask myself a deeper question. Because this episode isn't just about love in the romantic sense, it's about identity. It's about what relationships reveal about who we are becoming. So the real question becomes this: when someone truly loves you, are you open enough to receive what that love is trying to give? Or are you still guarding yourself from things that happen long before they arrive? See, that question is where I want to take us as we move into the final reflection of this episode. Because sometimes the greatest gift love gives us is the courage to see ourselves more clearly. And when we allow that to happen, we don't just become better partners, we become better people. So I want to leave you with a question today. Not a surface question, a real one. Who are you when you love someone? Do you become the best version of yourself? Or does love reveal places where growth is still needed? Because the truth is, love is one of life's greatest teachers. And if we're willing to listen, it will show us exactly who we are becoming. So before we move forward, I want you to pause for just a moment. Take a breath wherever you are, whatever you're carrying. This next part is for you. Let's speak life over ourselves out loud if you can. Because what we say in this moment has the power to shift how we walk into the rest of our day. Let's begin with our affirmation. I am not defined by my past or limited by my mistakes. I am growing, learning, and becoming who I was created to be. I have values beyond titles, roles, and expectations. I choose honesty over fear and growth over comfort. I am allowed to change, heal, and evolve. I walk with purpose, clarity, and courage. I am becoming more aligned with my true self every day. And who I am is enough. So as we close today's episode, I want to thank you for taking this time for yourself. If something you heard inspired you, challenged you, or made you pause and reflect, please don't keep it to yourself. Share this episode with someone who may need it. Invite them into the conversation. See, this podcast grows when we grow together. I cannot do this without you. We grow together through shared stories, honest reflections, and real connections. See, every listen, every share, every conversation helps create a community rooted in purpose, rooted in faith, rooted in love, rooted in hope, trust, and truth. So until next time, keep reflecting, keep becoming, and remember, you matter. This is the Who Am I podcast, and let's walk this journey together.
Who am I? Yeah, I'm more than the pain, more than the pride. Who am I? Who am I? Walking in purpose, no mask, no disguise. This is my voice, my rise, my life. Welcome to Who Am I?